I hereby call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Education for Wilmette Schools, District 39, for Monday, April 27th, 2020. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lisa Schneider-Fabes.
Here.
John Cesaretti.
Here.
Frank Panzica.
Here.
Amy Paling.
Here.
Mark Steen.
Here.
Ellen Sternweiler. Ellen Sternweiler.
Ellen, you might be on mute.
Here. Erin Stone.
Here.
After a brief introduction and welcome, Principal Cindy Anderson and our Ramona students will lead the pledge for us this evening.
Okay, starting video.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. We have been so encouraged during this difficult time by our students' resilience, courage, and kindness. All of our students did an amazing job spreading kindness and community through our District 39 Gives Back challenges. We also have been incredibly impressed by the meaningful virtual connections between our staff and their students. From a virtual talent show to morning meeting to a math lesson, the relationships between our staff and students have stayed strong. In fact, we have 2 clips of special videos to share with you tonight. The first is a clip of a video that our staff made for our students and community to let the students know that we are all in this together. The second is a clip of a video that our students made for the Ramona team with the help of our amazing PTA to show their appreciation. We hope you enjoy these beautiful videos that demonstrate our strong community connections. Together, once we know that we are, we're all stars, and we see that we're all in this together, and it shows when we stand hand in hand, make our dreams come true. Together, together, everyone, together, come on, let's have fun.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh,
Thank you for letting us share those special moments with you. This is a strange time for all of our students, but especially our 4th graders as they get ready to say goodbye to Ramona after many wonderful years and memories. So we've asked some 4th graders to join us. Thank you to Leah, Bohan, Scarlett, Sean, and Delana for helping us tonight. Now, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the United States of America
and to the republic for
which
which
it
it stands,
stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you, and thank you to all of the essential workers in District 39 and our community for keeping us safe. We are all in this together. Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight.
Great. I just want to thank Principal Anderson, all the staff, and the students. That was just a lovely set of videos, and it was hard for me not to break down watching the kids. That was lovely. I would like to remind everyone that this is a public meeting and we are all among neighbors and fellow residents. Appropriate conduct is expected from everyone. We ask that people speak only when called upon, that we treat each other kindly and with proper respect, and refrain from any distracting behaviors, such as loud conversations, cheering, clapping, or booing. I seek a motion to approve the March 26, 2020 public hearing minutes and the minutes of the March 16th, 2020 Board of Education and Executive Session meetings.
I move to approve the minutes of the March 16, 2020 public hearing and the March 16, 2020 Board of Education and Executive Session minutes.
May I have a second?
Second.
The motion having been made and seconded, board members, are there any comments, errors, or omissions to the minutes?
There's one small error on the regular meeting. It's just a misspelling of Governor Pritzker's name on the second page.
Great. Board members, are there any other corrections, errors, or omissions? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please indicate by saying yay.
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 Yay. Motion carries by general consent. This is an opportunity for the community to address the board. The district has requested that public comments be emailed to publiccomment@wilmette39.org. That's publiccomment@wilmette39.org. Have we received any public comments via email?
There are no public comments.
Thank you. So we're going to move to board reports. We'll start with the committee reports. Facility development, Ms. Sternweiler.
Yes. The Facility Development Committee met as part of the Committee of the Whole on April 20th. And we discussed the donation agreement in support of the Central Elementary School Kindergarten Playground. It was reviewed. The Central PTA has generously raised $75,000 for construction of the kindergarten playground, which will be installed this summer. And we are very grateful for that donation. And the FDC also reviewed Harper Summer Construction. This construction centers around finishing the new classroom space for kindergarten enrichment and preparing space for special education, the Special Education Therapeutic Intervention Program, the TIP program, to relocate from Central to Harper School next year. And that's it for the Facility Development Committee. So I will turn it back to you, Ms. Fapes. Thanks.
Thank you. So now we're moving to school finance. Mr. Cesaretti.
All right, so the School Finance Committee also met last Monday as part of the Committee of the Whole. We received and discussed a presentation by Elizabeth Hennessy, who is our bond advisor, who provided us with a market update. She reviewed historical interest rates with a focus on market changes since the coronavirus outbreak. We continue to monitor the markets carefully. The board was provided a bond sale process update and discussed public offering, direct placement, competitive sales, and negotiated sales. Basically a bunch of alternatives for what would make the most sense for doing the bond sale. In light of the current market conditions, the bond sale has been delayed and we're monitoring it now. Ms. Hennessy also provided a review of cost, of issuance comparisons, as well as advantages and disadvantages of a private placement. We anticipate the sale of bonds, nevertheless, in the next couple weeks. Excuse me. The SFC also discussed capital projects and funding timelines. The board reviewed a draft of the capital projects funding timeline and the FY20 budget, along with some adjustments anticipated to reflect, excuse me, the projected balance in the O&M fund at the end of the fiscal year. FY21 information has been updated to reflect known costs based on actual construction bids, as well as savings due to unused contingency of $196,000 combined for the Harper and Highcrest Learning Commons projects. The committee also discussed the draft FY21 budget for all funds. This draft budget will be presented and discussed in detail later in this evening's agenda. When the final budget is presented in August, it will reflect actual fund balances at the end of FY20. The budget currently reflects a surplus in the operating funds prior to other uses of funds for construction projects. We expect a higher balance at the end of the fiscal year within the operations and maintenance budget due to some savings from the FY20 capital projects and the issuance of bonds. These additional funds projected in the operating fund balance will put the projected operating fund balance as a percentage of the operating fund expenditures at 48.8% at the end of FY21. The board also discussed that over the next couple of months, we will get a better idea of where our projected fund balance will be at the end of FY20 based on the impact of COVID-19 and the school closure. Finally, the SFC reviewed options for a transportation contract amendment in light of school closures. The board has expressed interest in ensuring that the bus drivers continue to be paid during the COVID-19 school closure by continuing to pay salaries and benefits of all the North Shore Transit employees that are related to Wilmette. Per the terms of our transportation contract, the district is not required to make any payments when routes are not run. However, the district has an interest in ensuring our drivers continue to be paid, both in accordance with the board's direction issued in March when the schools first closed, and in order to make sure we have bus drivers available when school returns to in-person instruction. The board reviewed a proposed contract with North Shore Transit to pay 60% of normal, regular, and special ed route costs to cover salaries and benefits of North Shore Transit drivers and other employees. In order to be fiscally responsible, we need to balance payments to North Shore Transit to ensure drivers continue to be paid with the district expenses and any potential refunds to parents. Well, we had hoped a contract would be ready for consideration and potential action at tonight's meeting. We now anticipate consideration in May. And that's all I have. Turn it back to you, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cesaretti. And now it's time for strategy. Mr. Steen.
Thank you. The board also met in its strategy committee on the same last Monday in virtual session, and we received an update on the district's scheduling of the strategic planning events that we have been planning for about 6 months now. And members of the public may recall that we earlier this year hired or approved the hiring of a strategy consultant. And this is a project that we've been working on for about 6 to 9 months now. Unfortunately, due to the cancellations that came about because of COVID-19, we wound up in a situation where Dr. Cremascoli had to recommend that the district put on hold the formal strategic planning efforts for this school year. And in light of that, and the fact that the community-wide engagement effort being planned had no opportunity for in-person meetings, it seemed to Dr. Cremascoli and the administration that the most prudent measure would be to revisit this topic in the fall, probably in the second half of the fall, and start the strategic planning effort then. The board agreed and supports with this direction and directed the administration to plan to seek new dates for that second quarter of the fall when we can launch next school year. That's it from strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to liaison reports. We'll have Illinois Association of School Boards. Ms. Sternweiler.
ISB is largely focusing their attention on supporting school districts throughout the state navigating within this new foreign remote learning landscape. They're helping to define paths as everyone works to clarify expectations and opportunities throughout through the end of this school year, and turns their attention to summer programming options as well as questions of transitions back to the new school year in whatever modality may be available to us all by then. Unfortunately, even as we were informed by Governor Pritzker yesterday, I think it was yesterday, these still remain moving targets, and there are too many unknowns at this point. As a result, ISB is working hard to ensure that all interagency statewide efforts of collaboration are in place so decisions can be made as quickly as information becomes available. They can support us. In the meanwhile, ISB has been offering school board members, superintendents, and school administrators in districts across the state with opportunities to connect and converse regarding their roles in this time of crisis. Topics include school board virtual meetings, agendas, and closed session, ways to support the superintendent, feeding students, and much more. This week, they will offer 2 opportunities to engage in these conversations, hosted by field services directors. And one will be on Thursday from 5 to 6, and the other one on Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. And now we're moving to the legislative update. Ms. Stone?
Yes, the state legislative sessions have all been canceled through the end of April. On the federal level, states can now apply for their portion of the $13.5 billion that was allotted for K through 12 education as part of the third stimulus package, or CARES Act. That can be used to reimburse COVID-related expenses going back to the 13th of March, even though the law wasn't signed until a couple weeks later. There is a lot of very specific detail about how the funds can be distributed that's on the ISB website. In the fourth stimulus package, there's no money for education included, but there's currently some advocacy on the national level for additional funds for education, along with some advocacy for flexibility under IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And finally, HR 6563 was proposed last week. That would create funds for districts who are struggling with things like connectivity of mobile devices and Wi-Fi.
Great, thank you very much. And now we're going to move to information items. Dr. Grimascoli, we have written communication.
Yes, the board received written communication from Eric Aswad, requesting the district consider utilizing the Khan Academy for online learning, and communication from Tracy Kearney regarding the committee of the whole meeting and supporting documents.
Great, moving on to administrative announcements.
Thank you. I have quite a bit to share. It feels like it's been a lifetime since we were all together at our last meeting. So I do want to give the board an update on remote learning. And we spoke quite a bit about this at the committee of the whole, but for the benefit of the public, I want to summarize some of the feedback we've been receiving, and then also some of the next steps that we have taken in order to ensure that our remote learning program really is focused on meaningful and manageable remote learning experiences. So as a district, the board is aware our programming for remote learning really is focused on just that, making learning meaningful and manageable, making those experiences nurture a strong and positive sense of connection between students and teachers, while emphasizing the most essential learning targets in each grade level or subject area. As we prepare now to move forward with the fourth quarter and the end of the school year remotely, in accordance with Governor Pritzker's most recent order for school districts to remain closed through the end of the school year, we provided the board an update at the committee of the whole last week. We also provided families with updates over the weekend as we're making those adjustments. We want to assure our community that we will see our way through this together. We will continue to put our students first, and as a community, we will continue to support one another and those in need with caring, kindness, and generosity, as we all know is the Wilmette way. This has without a doubt been a harrowing month for all of us. In the midst of many challenges, we have truly seen the resilience and the collective strength of our entire community. So we are incredibly grateful for that. these are unprecedented times, and I am so proud of the work that our teachers are doing and our administrators are doing, but also the work that our community as a whole is doing together, and the support that our parents have provided to really support the learning that's happening within each and every home is truly to be commended. So we did take some time to survey our parents and our teachers and our students, and we've used that information to really guide some of the adjustments that we've made in our remote learning plan. We also continue to closely monitor guidance from our health experts as we plan for the end of the school year, as well as for what summer school might look like and what the start of the new school year will look like. So there is still yet far more guidance that is coming. And so the end of the school year, while we know we won't reconvene in person, we are still awaiting some additional guidance from the State Board of Education in terms of what the calendar could look like and what those last few days of school might look like as well. Nonetheless, we're building our plans in the best interest of our students and families and the community as a whole. So a few updates that I want to share. Let me shift my notes here, excuse me. In terms of survey results, and we did link this report to the board agenda, so anyone who might be interested in reviewing the survey results will be able to see the report that has been made to the board. The district received 2,626 responses to the survey. Just over 1,200 were from students, just over 1,200 were from parents, and about 150 were teacher responses. And as you can imagine, each of those groups and individuals within those groups were able to share their experiences, both the celebrations as well as some of the struggles that everyone is experiencing. A couple of key areas that we really focused on in reviewing these data. First of all, in terms of connections, students and parents are reporting that students feel connected to their teachers, though there are some differences noted between our elementary and the middle school, junior high school experience. 70% of students identified that they do feel connected to their teachers while learning from home. That was really positive news for us because that has been such a focus area for us. A majority of parents report the same. However, again, there were some differences between our elementary and our middle school parents' reports there. We do continue to build upon these experiences, those that have been put in place, and to expand beyond those, especially for synchronous and asynchronous learning experiences. And in just a little bit, I want to share with the board and the community what we have done to update our expectations there and to also communicate those expectations. What we were finding is that our teachers are working incredibly hard, our parents are working incredibly hard, and so too are our students. But in this remote learning environment, we are all learning as we're going. And so we wanted to really clarify what those expectations are. So I will share that information with you in just a little bit and point you to where that is located on our website. We also really focused on the goal of making learning meaningful and manageable. And the majority of our students and parents report the work assigned is manageable, while there's some differences between parents and students, as I'm sure you can imagine, and some differences again between elementary and our 5-8 level students. Areas of successes and challenge vary really significantly. As we looked at not only the quantitative but the qualitative results, we are seeing some who are really celebrating certain areas and others who are challenged by those very same areas. And so it really highlights for us that everyone's home life is uniquely impacting and impactful of their ability to really engage in remote learning. A few celebrations. Our students are consistently identifying teachers as helpers in those situations where they need help, and parents are largely reporting that learning expectations were effectively communicated, that their child was able to use their school device effectively, and that the work assigned was meaningful. Although the majority of parents report that the amount of work was just right, again, there's some differences between our elementary parents and those reporting on behalf of our 5-8 students. Expectations within workload have been clarified for our teachers and for our students and also for our parents. And so we hope that that additional information will help. We have received quite a few reports of people saying it is just right and exactly what they expected. There are some who are reporting feeling overloaded and overwhelmed by the amount of work. And there are some who are reporting they'd like to see additional work assigned to them. And so we're trying to balance that while continuing to make sure that it's meaningful for all students, that there's some equitability for all students, and that truly it's manageable for our teachers and for our students and families working to support that learning. For our teachers, the same is very true. We have successes and challenges often highlighting in the same areas. So our teachers are reporting that connections with students are huge successes, and yet those are also challenges. And so when you're a teacher and you're working physically away from your students, those connections are such a wonderful opportunity for meaningful connection and joy. And yet for some of our students, they're still struggling to find ways to connect or to be connected in that remote learning environment. And so our teachers continue to work on that, those levels of engagement, supporting students and their varying needs from home, and then also planning and providing meaningful learning in this remote environment, providing meaningful feedback are things that are both successes and challenges and continue to be for our teachers. Many of our teachers are really highlighting the increased need for collaboration and collaborative planning with their colleagues in order to ensure that they continue to make the learning aligned and really targeted. And so we are working to balance all of those competing needs. In terms of success, the overall rating of the experience, 93% of students would rate their overall experience of learning as successful or very successful. Students weren't given the same range of options, but only 7% of them reported that it was not very successful for them. So we saw that as a success. Of our parents, 58% of parents categorized their child's overall remote learning experience as excellent or good, with another 29% categorizing it as fair as of April 6th. And again, we continue to make improvements and to refine what we're doing. Among our teachers, about 82% would rate the overall experience of teaching remotely as successful or very successful, with another 17% rating it as fair. So again, there's quite a bit of variance, but we're seeing some really strong reasons to celebrate, as well as these data helped to guide some of the improvements that we have made as well. So the report summarizes some of what we saw qualitatively in terms of feedback from our parents. Our parents are saying that our teachers are doing an amazing job, that they are organized, have done an excellent job of transitioning into this new way of teaching. They're providing meaningful learning activities, and that the video conferencing and connections between teachers and students are really a point of celebration. Some of the more common challenges that we identified were parents were really looking for a single and common streamlined place for access to assignments, outlines of assignments at the beginning of the week to allow for better planning, more student-to-student socialization opportunities, and more synchronous connections or pre-recorded lessons. All of those things we've taken into account as we have refined our expectations and really clarified what we're focused on moving forward. So there is a lot of information in this report. I will highlight just a few things that we're planning around right now. Obviously, the calendar is a key area that we will be planning for. We well expect that we will be doing remote learning, obviously through the end of the year, but certainly through June 5th. And then those last couple of days of school, we're still working out what those can look like to really honor some of the end of the year celebrations, ensure that teachers have the opportunity for meaningful farewells with their classes, and that there's some time to plan for some of the curricular adjustments and placements for the upcoming school year for our students. So let me point to and see if I can share my screen. If you give me just a minute. We've been practicing, but we'll see if I'm able to do this. I do want to share with members of the board and the community our remote learning resource page. Are you able to see our page here?
Yes, you got it.
Okay, very good. So this is linked to the front page of our website, and just in the top left-hand corner, parents can access this, and there is a wealth of information. Many of the questions that we receive from parents are answered here. Excuse me. So we have the calendar. We have some communications. So all of my previous communications are cataloged here in case parents want to look back. What I want to do is point us toward this remote learning expectations. Again, we hear time and time again that the connections between teacher and students are critically important. And so we have attempted to clarify what teachers and students and parents can expect in terms of those connections, as well as participation and attendance. So what you'll see here is this chart where we have attempted to define what synchronous and asynchronous learning looks like within our remote learning plans. Some of the examples where students and parents can expect those connections with teachers. And then we've also gone through and worked with our teachers to really clarify what are those synchronous sessions that a family could expect, that a student should expect, and also when we expect a student to be engaging in those synchronous learning opportunities. What we were finding is at times, especially at the 5-8 level, teachers were making these opportunities available and our students weren't always aware that it was a requirement or an expectation that they participate in those. And so there was some frustration there, I think, for some of our teachers that kids weren't always engaging, and maybe some frustration too from some of our parents that these opportunities didn't seem to be as prevalent. And so we really worked to clarify what those expectations will be moving forward, and we'll continue to schedule and express those expectations with our students so that they can log in. Again, those synchronous and asynchronous opportunities are both really important. We know that we cannot replicate in-person instruction through remote learning, and yet we want to make sure that we are making it as meaningful as we possibly can for our students. We've clarified some of the expectations for gray days. These really are still learning days. They are work days for students and for teachers, but they are days in which we have we are not providing synchronous opportunities. They're days when teachers have office hours, and so individual students and teachers can connect with each other. Lessons are being provided, or students are working on long-range projects, homework. It really is a day for everyone to make sure that they can have as productive a week as possible, and to have some more flexibility in the schedule for students and teachers to connect, for students to complete work, and to really prepare for a really solid week moving forward. Finally, we have included here the workload guidelines. ISB has been really clear about what their expectations are for workload in the remote learning environment. And so what we have done is tried to align not only with ISB, but with what our expectations are for our teachers and students in this remote learning environment. And so we have provided a daily student workload breakdown by minutes of about how much time they should be spending on their work, recognizing that there does need to be balance. It is not appropriate, nor would it be productive for our students, especially some of our youngest students, to be engaged online all day. We do want to make sure that they're finding some balance in this new remote world. And so we've provided some clarification there for what students and parents can expect, as well as our expectations for teachers. Excuse me, going back, there's some frequently asked questions, and then there's a plethora of resources for parents, everything from the most recent webinars that Tony DeMonte hosted, which were wonderfully attended and really informative, to our virtual library that includes a wealth of resources. In particular, I want to point out the ebooks that are available through our virtual library, and then some of the virtual tours and field trips that are available there as well. The district's e-learning plan is connected here as well. And then there are just a ton of resources available for parents who might be in need or are just looking to learn a little bit more about how to support their child through the pandemic that we're currently grappling with. That is, in summary, much of what we've really been focused on over the last week and a half in collaboration with our teachers. Again, we're really proud of the work that we're doing, and yet we recognize that no one would have chosen this type of learning or this type of teaching. And so we're doing the best we can to make it meaningful, manageable, and connected for our teachers and for our students as well. In terms of this school year calendar, I'm just kind of going to move on through my reports here, and then I'll open it up to questions because they are all interrelated. Regarding the 1920 school year calendar, we are awaiting some additional clarification from the governor and the State Board of Education regarding the last day of school in June, what options might be available for us. Even for graduation, though we're starting to build out some plans for that. What we know right now, as I mentioned earlier, is that remote learning will continue at least through June 5th. And then we want to set aside some time during the following week for some end of year activities, some of those celebrations that we typically host at the end of the year. If we can't do it in person, we will find some ways to do some activities and some closer to the school year in some unique ways remotely. We have progress reporting that we're working on. We know we need to plan for and allow time for locker clean out and classroom clean out as well, and then for those final farewells. So in this unique remote learning environment, we are finding that there is a lot more to plan for as we approach the end of the school year and as we plan for the upcoming school year as well. We also expect that our teachers will spend some of that final week again, planning and collaborating with each other in preparation for the next school year and transition back. So we hope that by mid-May, we'll have a better idea of what the start of the next school year will look like. But we may still be looking at building out a couple of plans, some that might involve in-person instruction and some that might involve remote learning, some that may be a hybrid approach to that. And then we'll have to continue to monitor throughout the summer. In terms of registration for the next school year, you'll remember that we strongly encouraged families to complete the registration process prior to spring break. Then the pandemic hit and all of our collective attentions were turned elsewhere. Yet we're really happy to report that many of our families have still been able to complete the enrollment process for the upcoming school year. To date, approximately 80% of students registered have completed the enrollment process for the upcoming school year. Our school secretaries continue to reach out to families who have not yet finalized their enrollment for the upcoming school year. Again, that data is really important for our planning as we look at staffing for the upcoming school year. And yet we know there is a lot that is unknown for our families and for our students. And so we continue to do the very best planning that we possibly can in light of the current situation. As we look at end of year planning, we know that the end of the school year will not be the same without the opportunity for all of us to physically gather again as a school community. We also know that the school closures are especially difficult for our students who are preparing to enter a new school in the next year. So our 4th graders, our 6th graders, and our 8th graders. As I mentioned earlier, we're trying to identify some special ways in which to honor the end of their school year, but also for all students. So there are many different activities that we are planning around. Right now, we're looking at the May-June school calendar. We're also looking at grades and grade reporting. We're looking at creating some additional synchronous or live supports for students through the end of the school year. And then we're also looking at how can we ensure safe and healthy ways of celebrating the end of the school year, of cleaning out lockers, of returning library books and textbooks and electronic devices, even of supporting transitions as students move from one grade to the next. And so there's a lot of coordination with our teachers at this point. We're also coordinating across the township and with New Trier for our 8th graders who are transitioning to the high school. We have started to receive some questions about summer school programming, and I know it's on many of your minds as well. We are currently considering what options may exist for summer school opportunities in District 39. We know that we will offer summer school in some way, shape, or form, but we await further guidance regarding what that modality might be and what options we can make available. We expect that we will need to modify the programming that has historically been available to account for social distancing requirements, but we remain hopeful that we may be able to offer at least some in-person instruction. Knowing that there will be some restrictions to in-person instruction, even probably to remote instruction, we do plan to focus our attention and our resources almost exclusively on the academic programming for this summer. So the board will remember that we often provide many different enrichment programs. And for this summer, we really want to focus as many resources as possible on the academic programming, knowing that some of those enrichment opportunities, especially cooking and sewing and some of those other things, just aren't well coordinated in a remote learning environment. And so that is where our focus will be for this summer. I have shared a whole lot of information there. I am happy to answer any questions that the board may have before moving on to the rest of the administrative reports.
Board members, are there any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Frank.
One thing that occurred when people do enrollment, is that when we collect fees, or do we collect fees later?
There's a two-step process. And so the first step is enrolling. The second step would be collecting those fees. And so a family can complete the enrollment process without paying all of the fees. So that should not be holding a family back from completing that process right now.
Okay, and it might be good to remind people of the Angel Fund, just because people that have never considered that in the past might need to consider it this time.
Yes, absolutely. And we're starting to see that across our community. Our principals are really reaching out to families who previously were in need, but we're starting to identify some other families who maybe previously weren't in need and need some additional support. And so thank you for mentioning that, Frank.
And related to that, you might ask for donations to it, because I assume the demands are greater than the normal run rate.
Yes, I failed to highlight it when I was looking at the website, but we do have a page that's specifically designed for both those capable of giving and those who might be in need of receiving. And in those communications that I'm pushing out from my office, we are regularly reminding people that if they're in a position to give, the Angel Fund is one place. The other really wonderful place right now is the New Trier Township Food Pantry that is providing many resources to families in need as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Cremascola, on that note, I do believe the foundation, did they make a donation to the Angel Fund?
Thank you so much for mentioning that. They did a very generous donation to help support families in need at this point. Their hope is that in making that significant donation that they can support families in need now through the end of the school year, and then even possibly through the summer and the start of the next school year as well. So yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions from board members? Ms. Sternweiler.
I missed the very end. Pardon me. I missed the very end of what you said. Are there considerations for extending the academic summer programming beyond the 4 weeks that are already planned?
Yes, and it depends on what opportunities are available to us. So we may have to do some staggering depending on if we can offer in-person instruction or not. We're also sensitive to the various needs of our families and of our staff too. So there's quite a bit of juggling and a lot of different opportunities that we're looking into. We're even looking into some remote learning opportunities for kids who may simply want to continue practicing over the summer in recognition of the unique end of the school year that we had this year. So absolutely.
I completely understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other board members? Okay, so I just want to make sure before we go on to annual business, were there any FOIA requests, Dr. Cremascola?
There were, thank you. I wanted to get through those questions first. We did have, the board received a FOIA from Nathan Mihalik of the Illinois Retired Teachers Association requesting names and email addresses of any certified teacher, meaning teachers, administrators, nurses, and counselors, etc., who are retiring this year. Venya Joshi submitted the same FOIA twice for all logs from August 1st, 2017 to the present that detail the instances when students were placed in isolated timeout, seclusion, or any other type of confinement. And Catherine Smizer of NBC Universal requested the district answer survey questions on issues concerning potential local cases of coronavirus.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to annual business. Dr. Cremascoli, that's still you.
Thank you. Tonight is the first review of the fiscal year 2021 tentative budget. It will be reviewed again next month, and the final budget will be submitted to the board for approval in August. Ellen Crispino has this report, and I know she is eager to share her screen as she talks through this. So give her just a minute and she will get queued up for that.
Thank you. Hopefully I am pulling it up right now. And can everybody see that okay? Perfect. And you can hear me too, right? Okay, great. Thank you. So tonight we are presenting the tentative budget for fiscal year 21. This first version of the budget was prepared prior to the governor announcing the school closure through the end of the school year. This budget uses the current fiscal year 20 budget as a starting point for the fiscal year 21 budget. Over the next couple of months, we will be reviewing the estimated financial implications of COVID-19, the school closure, and the impact of the current economic environment on the fiscal year 21 budget. We will be presenting the tentative budget again in May, and we'll be addressing some of these implications at that point in May. And then the final budget will be presented in August, and again, we will be updating with additional information at that time. So first, we're going to take a look at the operating funds. The district's operating funds include educational fund, operations and maintenance, transportation, municipal retirement, working cash, and tort funds. This chart shows revenue by source, and local revenue makes up the majority of the district's revenue. And as you can see on this chart, property taxes make up 80% of the revenue. First, I'm going to talk about our local revenue assumptions. First, the property tax revenue currently assumes an increase of 1.9% CPI from the 2019 levy and 2.3% for the 2020 levy, and those are actual percentages at this point. New property growth is estimated at around $487,000 and is based on a 12-year historical average. Levy collections are estimated at 98% net of refunds, which is also based on historical collections. Sounds like the Cook County assessor is going to be reassessing all properties due to COVID-19. However, it is unclear at this point what the impact will be for the fiscal year 20 budget, so we will continue to monitor this as we get more information. We will also be reviewing the projected refunds based on the current economic environment. Interest revenue is another item in local source of revenue. It's budgeted at 0.7% of the prior year funds balance to the decreases in interest revenue that we're seeing right now. Kindergarten enrichment revenue is budgeted at $769,000 and is based on an enrollment of 119 students. When we completed the 5-year projections, we assumed enrollment of 112 students and revenue of $724,000, so we're right on track where we thought we would be with the projections. Next, we have state and federal revenue assumptions. Evidence-based funding is currently projected at our fiscal year 20 allocation, and the budget assumes the district will receive all 4 payments from the state. However, in fiscal year 20 so far, our district has only received 1 quarterly payment. State funding is another area that we will need to continue to monitor over the next couple of months as we move through the budget process, as it's very likely there will be a decrease in state funding as well. However, the amount is unknown at this point. Federal grant revenue is based on fiscal year 20 allocations, and again, this may be adjusted as we get more information. This next chart shows operating expenditures by object. Salary and benefits combined make up 80% of the operating expenditures. The first salary assumptions that I want to talk through. Salary costs are estimated to increase 5%. Certified salaries are at an increase of $1,000 plus 3.8%, and support salaries for fiscal year 21 are currently being negotiated. This budget reflects projected staffing levels based on current enrollment numbers, and the staffing for fiscal year 21 includes the addition of 1 principal at the Wilmette Junior High School and 2 assistant principals at our elementary schools, as well as staff to support the kindergarten enrichment program, which is rolling out at Central and Harper next year. Benefit costs are expected to increase just under 11%. Benefits are based on current enrollment and actual rates for fiscal year 21. The HMO insurance costs are increasing 5.5%, and the PPO and high deductible health plan costs are increasing 12.83%. The budget also includes an estimated payment of $315,000 to our co-op, Cooperative 90s, for the proportionate share of our reserves for medical and dental. This next slide highlights the cost of construction projects that are included in the budget. The first 2 have already been out to bid and approved. The first is High Crest Construction at $1.7 million, and that includes the conversion of the old Library and Media Center to 3 classrooms, and that project also includes large space air conditioning for the auditorium. Next is $1.7 million of renovations at Central School. This includes classroom renovations to support the kindergarten enrichment program and the addition of large space air conditioning in the cafeteria. Also included in the budget are construction costs for Ramona and Mackenzie kindergarten enrichment programs to start the following year. These assumptions that I just reviewed form the foundation for the development of this budget. Now I will take a look through some more specific information on the individual funds. The Education Fund is the largest fund and contains the budgets to provide for the basic instruction of students and the day-to-day educational activities of the district. The revenues in this fund have a projected overall increase of $1.4 million, which is 2.8%, and are mostly due to an increase in local revenues, which account for 91% of the revenues in this fund. In addition to an increase of just under $1 million in property tax revenue, there's the increase in $769,000 for kindergarten enrichment. These increases are offset by a decrease of $465,000 in interest revenue due to the lower interest rates that we are experiencing. Expenditures have an overall projected increase of 6%. Salaries and benefits account for 88% of the expenditures in this fund, and combined they are projected to increase $2.8 million, which is 6.1%. Other expenses, which include purchase services, supplies, and capital outlay, are increasing 5%. Other expenses include delay of the special education response to intervention evaluation, as well as the delay of the strategic planning consultants from this year to next year due to the school closure, and it also include outplaced tuition costs. The Education Fund is projected to end the fiscal year at end of 2021 with a fund reserve of $25.6 million. Next, we have the Operations and Maintenance Fund. This fund contains the budgets necessary to maintain the buildings and grounds of the district. O&M revenues are budgeted at $9.5 million and are projected to increase 2.3%. Expenditures of $5.9 million are decreasing 4.8%. And then other uses of funds, which includes a transfer predominantly to the Capital Projects Fund for construction, that's $7.5 million. And then there's just under $800,000 of debt certificates that transfers from operations and maintenance to the debt service fund. At June 30th, 2021, the estimated fund reserve, as shown on these reports, is $797,000, but we anticipating ending the year at a higher place due to an additional $1 million for bonds compared to what was budgeted, and another $600,000 plus for timing and savings on capital projects. Next, we have the Transportation Fund. Oh, sorry, one more thing I forgot to say on the O&M fund. In addition, we will need to do a resolution for an interfund loan like we've done the last several years to cover any deficits from month to month for construction costs. This interfund loan would be repaid by the end of the year, fiscal year 21, if we need to use it. While we've done this several years, we haven't need to use it. It's just a precaution due to the timing of the cash flows if we need it. Now, the Transportation Fund. This contains the budgets necessary for the transportation of students. Revenues are projected at $1.8 million, which is a decrease of 9.5%. This is based on anticipated distribution of the levy and receiving 4 payments from the state. The levy has a planned decrease to reduce the fund balance to required levels. Expenditures are $2.2 million and are projected to have an overall increase of 10%, which include a contractual cost increase and are based on projected enrollment. The transportation fund reflects a year-end projected deficit of $461,000, and the balance in the end of fiscal year 21 is estimated at $1.3 million. The next fund is the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund and Social Security and Medicare. Revenues are projected to have an overall increase of 1.7%. Expenditures are expected to increase 4.9%, related to increase in salaries and based on projected staffing. The fund balance reflects a projected year-end balance of $645,000. Next, we have the Working Cash Fund. Budgeted revenues are projected at $97,000, and the Working Cash Fund balance is projected to be $1.3 million at the end of the fiscal year. This fund enables the board to have money in its treasury for district short-term cash flow needs. The last operating fund budget is the Tort Fund. It is primarily to fund business insurance liability, property, workers' compensation, and unemployment coverage. The Tort Fund revenue of $734,000 is projected to increase by $186,000 based on anticipated distribution of the levy. In previous years, we had reduced the levy to this fund to adjust the fund balance back to required levels, and now that it's back up to be, it's going to continue at these more regular levels. The fiscal year 21 Tort Fund expenditures of $654,000 are an increase of 8%. During the months ahead, as more accurate information becomes available about expenditure estimates for insurance, we'll adjust the expenditures as required. The balance in the Tort Fund reserve at the end of fiscal year 21 is estimated to be $578,000. This slide shows a summary of our operating funds. In summary, the total fiscal year 21 budgeted revenue for the operating funds is projected to be $65.8 million, which is a 2.6% increase over the prior year's budget. The fiscal year 21 budgeted operating fund expenditures are estimated at $65.2 million, which is a projected increase of 5.1%. The budget reflects a surplus in the operating funds of $599,000 prior to other uses of funds for construction projects. There is an additional $8.3 million in other uses, which includes transfer from the O&M fund, primarily to capital projects. This is for the $7.5 million planned investments in our facilities as described earlier. And just as a reminder, these numbers reflected here and in the budget package exclude TRS on behalf contributions made by the state. This budget package reflects starting with the district's fiscal year 20 year-end budget balances, and the operating fund balance at the end of fiscal year 21 is projected to be $30.2 million and reflects 46%. The Board of Education has a goal of sustaining the overall end of fiscal year operating fund balance at a level equivalent to 40% or more. As mentioned earlier, we anticipate ending the year higher than budgeted due to the increase in debt and some savings in the operations and maintenance fund. We'll also be reviewing the fiscal year 20 projected fund balances based on COVID-19 and the school closure, and we'll be calculating the projected impact of local, state, and federal funding on the fiscal year 21 budget, given the current economic environment, and we will be adjusting the budget as appropriate. The next slide shows operating revenue and expenditures for the past 5 years. We have been using the surplus in revenues and expenditures to fund planned construction projects at our buildings. While we continue to have a surplus, you can see that the surplus is declining. This slide shows the non-operating fund summary. The debt service fund shows budgeted revenues of $1.6 million plus $799,000, which is transferred for the debt certificates, and includes expenditures of $2.4 million, which is an increase of 3.3%, and based on debt payments that were previously approved. There's a small surplus of $23,000 in this fund, which will be used for future debt payments. The capital project fund reflects transfers for O&M for the capital projects of the $7.5 million, and the health life safety fund shows no activity. STR completed our 10-year life safety study that has been approved by ISB. These projects continue to be paid out of our operating funds in fiscal year 2021. And if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Board members, are there any questions? Go ahead, Ms. Stone.
Yes, I'm just thinking about us monitoring the economic impact of COVID-19 and forecasting and planning for possible changes. You said that in the operating funds that 9% comes from other local revenue. Do you know exactly where that comes from? I'm just wondering if it's something that could be economically impacted.
So the other local revenue is primarily fees. It's lunch revenue, it's instructional material fee revenue.
Okay.
Mr. Cesarretti, do you have a question?
Yeah, really a comment. I really appreciate this memo that you put in the public packet. It's very good, Ellen. Thank you. And the detailed documentation is good.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I don't have a question now.
Other board members, Ms. Sternweiler? You might be on mute.
Unmute myself. Ellen, I'm just curious. You said we received 1 out of 4 of our payments thus far. Last year or in the past, is there kind of an average? Where were we in the past on those payments?
It is all across the board. I think last year we actually received 5 of our quarterly payments because the state was behind from the previous year, which we had received 3. And if you go back and look over the last 10 years, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, 4, or 5. But as part of going back to take a look at the budget, I am going back and looking at some of the historical numbers with Forecast 5 and how we kind of previously what's happened in recessions to try and figure out what we may want to include when we do the next pass of the budget in May, because it seems like where the state's at, it would be prudent to assume there's going to be some reduction in revenue for next year, but I don't know what that is. There isn't any guidance we've been given at this point.
Right. And I had a couple other questions. I know we've gone over this, but I can't remember, so I had a couple questions. The increase of 10% on the benefits this year, I know that's a really large increase over past years, as I recall. What has it been last year? Do you recall what it was last year, the increase?
I don't have the actual numbers in front of me, but I believe there's been some decreases in prior years. I think last year the HMO decreased. I want to say it was 8 or 9%. I would have to double check the numbers. I think when you go back and look at when we joined the co-op to where we are now, with the ups and the downs, it hasn't been that big of an increase over the past several years. This year, sometimes it goes up and sometimes it goes down. And this year there is a higher claims experience by several of the members in the district, which is causing the rates to increase on the PPO and the high deductible healthcare plan.
Right. I mean, it would be expected. I'm just kind of wondering what that actually equates to in terms of dollars on our part. I'm not sure what that number
we could go back. I don't have that right in front of me right now, but we have that information and we could go back and pull that.
Yeah. And then the one other thing was just, I think it kind of echoes what others have said, is that I'm just curious about the CPI, the increase in CPI that assumption that we've discussed. It will be interesting to see next time how you've done an amazing job, by the way. Thank you for this. This is just an incredible report. But it will be interesting to see how we look at CPI increase in the coming months.
Yeah, and I think also too, just to keep in mind that the way it's kind of the budget is kind of lagging the CPI. So we know what CPI is for 2019 and for 2020. So it's not going to impact, the CPI is not going to impact the budget for next year, but it will impact our long-term projections as we look at 5 years out. And if you go back and you look at where CPI was at back, around 2008 when it hit its low in the recession, it actually did go down to 0.1%. So again, that's another area that we're going to have to monitor and going to be looking at some different scenarios on where the CPI may end up and what the impact will be depending on where we end the year. And again, for property taxes, when one year is down, it has a ripple effect just of the way the calculation is. And so future years would be down, you know, as well. And it depends on how long the CPI remains at a low level. It's hard to say at this point.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Ellen.
Sure.
Other board members with questions? Mr. Cesarani.
Yeah, so sorry, Alan. So this is the first presentation. When's the next?
We'll be doing another one in May, and at May we ask you to approve the tentative budget, and we post the date for August board meeting when you would vote on the final budget.
Okay, so before that, are we gonna see an updated 5-year plan?
So I am working on pulling something back for the May committee of the whole to take a look at what the impact will be and with some of these different revenue funding assumptions, and then what the impact would be. I'm not exactly sure what, I'm still working on what we'll have ready to actually present for May, but we'll certainly be able to talk through some of the different impacts and the assumptions and what we want to look at for the 5-year projections.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful. Just as we
Yeah, there's been a lot of information and webinars, and actually Forecast 5 has had a lot of good information that we can use to go back and pull to make some different types of assumptions on what that would look like.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other board members?
Hello.
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Ellen, I know that the calendar, like you said, is this month, next month, and then August. But given that things are moving so quickly and potentially dramatically, would it be advisable to have another update between May and August? Because by May, we may not have all the information, well, we'll never have all the information, but there may be some significant data points between May and August that we'd want to be able to discuss.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we can probably bring the tentative budget for kind of like the formal review at May. And then what we can do is an update in June. If there's changes that we know, maybe just talk about them at, more of a summary level and then roll them into the detail in August, or we can talk about it, what would make the most sense.
I think there's enough changes both happening under our control and not under our control that's probably a good baseline.
Sure. I'll continue to update you as we get more information and we can continue to talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other board members? Okay, thank you very much. I know that was a lot of work and we'll continue to change.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so that takes us to board policy review. Dr. Krumascoli.
Sorry, I lost you. Yes, so the board will remember we did a first reading of these policies in March. We are now in April, and so we are doing our second and final reading of the Board of Education policies. We did not receive much feedback from the board regarding these policies or suggestions for revisions. The minor edits highlighted in the policy were revised by Dr. Glowacki as she read through them again before submitting them to the board last week. So we hope that the policies will be approved later in today's agenda, but this is the opportunity for the board to provide any additional feedback that they may have.
Board members, is there any discussion? No? Okay, then we will continue. This is another opportunity for the community to address the board. The district has requested that public comments be emailed to publiccomment@wilmette39.org. That's public comment at wilmette39.org. Have we received any public comments via email?
I just checked again and no comments were submitted.
Okay, we will continue with our agenda. The next order of business is the consent agenda under the action items. Are there any items the board would like pulled from the consent agenda? Okay. Mr. Panzica, please proceed with the motions. Mr. Panzica, I think you're on mute.
Yes. I move to approve the personnel report dated April 27, 2020. I move to approve as second and final reading of the Board of Education policies 8:10, 8:20, 8:25, 8:30, 8:70, 8:80, 8:90, 8:95, and 8:100. I move to approve to release to the public the executive session minutes for May 13, 2019 and August 22nd, 2019. I move to approve to not release to the public the executive session minutes for the following dates: June 10th, 2019, session 2, June 17th, 2019, August 26th, 2019, sessions 1 and 2, September 16th, 2019, September 23rd, 2019, October 28, 2019, November 18, 2019, December 16, 2019, January 13, 2020, January 27, 2020, and February 10, 2020. I move to approve to dispose of the executive session audio recordings for January 22nd, 2018, February 24th, 2018, February 26th, 2018, March 19th, 2018, and April 23rd, 2018. I move to approve the bills for payment. I move to approve the accounts payable for bills listed between March 17th, 2020 and April 27th, 2020 in the following amounts. Educational Fund, $587,715.49. O&M Fund, $302,035.51. Transportation Fund, $94,281.90. Capital Projects, $152,243, for a total all funds of $1,136,275.90. I move to approve the manual checks issued between March 2020 and April 27, 2020 in the following amounts. Educational Fund, $563,315.26. O&M Fund, $12,046.11. Transportation Fund, $53.19, for a total all funds of $575,414.56.
May I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Would the clerk please call the roll?
John Cesaretti,
Yes.
Frank Panzica,
Yes.
Amy Paling,
Yes.
Mark Steen,
Yes.
Colin Sternweiler,
Yes.
Aaron Stone,
Yes.
Lisa Schneider-Fabes.
Yes. The yeas have it. Motion carried. The consent agenda is approved. Next, we'll be moving on to conference items. We'll start with old business. Does anybody have any old business? Mr. Panzica.
Yes, Dr. Krimascoli, could you give us a quick update on the stormwater project status?
I can, thank you. The stormwater project is proceeding. The village has made arrangements to do so, and in fact has been able to get a little further in the project than otherwise anticipated because of increased access during the school day without students on campus. We are currently having some discussions about expanding that to full access. We haven't yet worked out all of the details of that, but we do expect to be able to move in that direction, with some days reserved for students and staff to be able to come into schools to gather things, access resources, etc.
Thank you.
Other old business. Okay, moving on to new business. Is there any new business? Moving on to good and welfare. Is there any good and welfare? Yes, Ms. Polly, Amy.
So I just want to say that at home, for my family, as I'm sure for everyone else's, being able to see and connect with adults throughout the community has meant the world to my kids. They light up about it more than anything else. And today on our gray day, they were so thrilled to hear from you, Dr. Cremascoli, a story. They loved the book that you read, and the lessons that came from it really meant a lot to them. And I think we all just heard, well, we know, given what we're dealing with, and then tonight we all heard all that you are dealing with and planning for. So it means a lot that you took the time to put an effort into making an appearance with the kids. And that just shows us where your heart is, which is doing what is right for our kids and keeping them at the center. So thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. There are more to come, so it's been fun. It's been a joyful opportunity. We all miss seeing our students so very much. So those opportunities to connect, while they're meaningful for our students, they are certainly meaningful for us teachers and administrators as well. So thank you for saying that.
Any other good and welfare? I have some. So I just want to say I think last week was hard. With the announcement of the end of the school year. And I know I speak for the board that we are all disappointed while we understand the need for it. I also believe I speak for the board when we say how impressed we are that you took the time to survey parents, staff, and teachers, parents, staff, and children, and that you continue to improve remote learning. And the new improved communication on the website is fabulous. And I know that we are all grateful for the efforts that your entire team, both administrative and teachers, the work that you've done is truly impressive, and it's gone, it hasn't gone unnoticed. We are all very appreciative.
Thank you.
Yep. So with that,
I think Lisa, Aaron had something to say. Frank did too. And
sorry. Okay, Aaron.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
I just want to thank the flexibility of the teachers. My son's in 8th grade and he was about to embark in his 4th quarter, which was going to be ceramics. And I was thinking, yeah, well, that's a bust. And then lo and behold, I come downstairs the other day and he's got a cookie sheet coming out of the oven with homemade clay that the teacher had given him ingredients for that I didn't know we had in the house. So, and now he's got a bag full of it in his room that he can manipulate and sculpt with. So really well done. Things that you thought wouldn't be able to get done are being done, and that's really impressive.
Thank you.
Right.
Very true. Thank you.
Did anyone else have something? Okay.
I would like to just acknowledge, first of all, thank you to all of our teachers for their incredible work, for the administrative team as well. Everyone is certainly going above and beyond at this point, but in that vein, so too did the board go above and beyond in appreciating our teachers. And so I appreciate the time that each board member took to step away from your busy lives to acknowledge and appreciate our teachers. And if it's okay with the board, I'd like to share that little video now. I think Tony might have it queued up. If that's okay, we could share that moment of appreciation, which I think I've heard from so many teachers how incredibly appreciative they were to hear directly from each of you. So Tony, do you have that?
Yes, hold on. All right, unfortunately, it's not displaying. Hold on one more moment.
Wow.
Well, it's okay. Let me move it here and get it playing for you. Okay. We're going to try this way.
On behalf of the Board of Education, we wish to express our sincere gratitude, appreciation, and admiration to our Wilmette District 39 teachers and staff for their incredible efforts on behalf of students and community in these unprecedented times. Your hard work is noticed and truly appreciated.
Hello, D39 teachers and staff. Board member Erin Stone here. Wanted to thank you so much for all of the hard work that you do on behalf of our students every day, both in unusual circumstances and always. I came across a quote the other day that is one of my favorites by Gandalf the Grey in Lord of the Rings, which I've been rereading. And it is, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for choosing to spend the time that is given to you to educate and uplift our students. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is John Cesaretti from the District 39 board. Wanted to reach out on behalf of the school board to thank all of the teachers, administrators, support personnel of District 39 for the fantastic job that you've done and continue to do. I gotta tell you, I think we all have just pretty much infinite faith in your professionalism and the fact that we're gonna get through this, and it's gonna be because you guys.
As a parent and a board member, I want to thank each and every one of you for all that you're doing on behalf of our children. I used to be a first grade teacher and elementary school principal. If someone had said that tomorrow you need to teach your students online, I can't imagine how I would have proceeded. You all have made this happen with such thoughtful leadership and care. You've planned creatively to make sure that the work is manageable and meaningful and fosters a sense of connection. To me, more important than any academic goal is the sense of normalcy that you're providing for our students during this unprecedented time. We know that you have your own families and loved ones to care for. Please know that the work you're doing is seen and deeply appreciated. Please take good care of yourselves and know that we are forever grateful.
As this unusual spring continues, I'm constantly reminded of how lucky we are to live in District 39. The dedication of you, our teachers and support staff, give our children a purpose each day. I know how difficult it is for parents with 1, 2, and 3 children, yet you support 20, 30, 40 children. Thank you.
Hey D39, I hope you're all staying healthy and safe. You've done an amazing job turning a school year on a dime. And so I want to say from all of the Team D39 family, thank you.
I am blown away by how much work you have all put in order to make sure that our kids are getting the best possible education during this unprecedented time in history. I also know that this is all as new to you as it is to us. And as a parent, I appreciate that. This is hard. It's really hard. And I know it's hard for you too. I have to give a special shout out to the teams that work with all our kids who have special needs, because it's doubly hard for those kids too. And I know if it's doubly hard for us as parents, it is for you. But I want you to know the kids are finally in bed and they're okay. And we're okay. And you know what? You're doing an amazing job. It will be fine. We're gonna all get through this. I can't wait to thank you in person when this is all over, and it will end. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, be well, and be safe.
I wanted to give a special shout out to the District 39 teachers and staff. I wanted to let you know that I admire and am grateful for your hard work and perseverance. I know that you've gone the extra mile. During a global pandemic, you've had to learn how to do remote learning and provide remote learning at the same time, all while taking care of your family. You've done an incredible job. You inspire me. I am grateful.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for doing that. Dr. Krumascoli, thank you for sharing. It is now time to move to executive session to discuss collective bargaining. May I please have a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss collective bargaining?
I move to adjourn to executive session to discuss collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or the representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, 5 ILCS 122C2.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion having been made and seconded, will the clerk please call the roll?
John Caesarretti,
Yes.
Frank Panzica,
Yes.
Amy Paling,
Yes.
Mark Steen,
Yes.
Ellen Sternweiler,
Yes.
Aaron Stone,
Yes.
Lisa Schneider-Fabes.
Yes. Motion carried. We are now adjourned to executive session. The time is 8:27.
Okay, I'll be opening up the breakout room for you guys to go into executive session. Please hold just 30 seconds. You're going to see it and then you can enter in. Okay. Okay, opening the room. If you haven't joined the executive session breakout room, please do. And if you...
I'm not seeing where it is.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'll do is see about assigning you to it.
Yeah, it's not showing up.
I will move you to it. And Heather, I'm going to move you to it, I believe, as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And Kristen, you too, correct?
Yes.
And Katie? Yes or no, Katie?
I do not believe so.
Okay. We're going to continue to live stream then until they return. So keep your video off and your mic muted.
Okay.
You can go ahead and begin.
I need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting, please.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
And the time is 9:38. Oh, sorry. Motion having been made and seconded, all those in favor of adjournment, please indicate by saying yay.
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 Hey.
Great. Motion carries by general consensus. The time is now 9:39. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Well done.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Good
Stay
night.
Take
well.
care.
You too.